Well, how's your journey going? Have you lost any more weight?
I just stepped on the scales yesterday and I told my wife, I said, well, I don't know how you lose 2 pounds overnight. Well, I kind of guess I do, but I said, drop down a couple of pounds down to 243. So felt pretty good about getting closer to one more bracket. You probably seen from some of my stuff where I've told you that I'm doing measurements of 10 pound brackets at a time. Each time I drop like from 240 to 230 range, I consider that like a success and a win. So I'm almost, like I said, slightly over 3 pounds away from dropping into the 230s. So it's been a long time since I weighed in the 230s. So I'm looking forward to trying to get there.
I'm using brackets as well, but I'm limiting my bracket. Each one's just a pound.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I've been on this since July now, and
yeah.
you know, it's really slowed up. But I broke the barrier this morning. I weighed in this morning, and I've lost 90.4 pounds now. So I finally cracked the 90-pound mark.
Awesome. Congratulations.
So just if I can, my goal right now is to 290, and I think
Yeah.
that's what you was 290.
Yeah. Now, how tall are you?
6'2".
6'2". So you're taller than I am. See, I'm at 6 foot. So 290 on you is different than 290 on me. And whenever I was 290, I was also just, if you see that picture that I would post, I was retaining a lot of water at that point too. They started giving me some water pills because when my blood pressure was up. They're like, hey, we're going to give you some water pills. We're going to change your medication because they had to find some way to get that down. But I was heavier and retaining water, just puffy. So I
Mm-hmm.
was puffy and heavy, if that makes sense.
I haven't experienced that. I've not had a problem, retaining water, but I don't drink a lot of water, but I drink a lot of coffee, as you probably can tell from some of my
Yeah.
Facebook posts. But I
Yeah,
eat a lot of water.
exactly.
The local grocery stores up here are still carrying watermelon, even though it's out of season in North Carolina, but they're bringing it in from Mexico. And I think I go through a watermelon every 3 days, just maybe every 2.5 days.
I
But
was at Walmart last night right before they closed. I almost bought a watermelon, but I had to hurry up and grab the stuff that my wife wanted. So I grabbed that and then forgot about the watermelon on the way back out.
well, up here they're about $10 a piece, and they're decent size. You have to, you never know what you get till you cut it open, though. I mean, we've had some that
Yeah.
weren't eaten, but that's what's kept me going, especially early on when I started this. Protein drinks and watermelon was really the only thing that I craved,
Yeah.
and I try to eat the water most of the time. I'll eat one a day and protein drink in the morning, and may eat something in the evening. Most of the time, it's just maybe snacking on watermelon and coffee again, but I'm not really hungry.
Yeah. The first week, so, I was off Mounjaro for a couple of weeks, right? And the first week that I was back, I didn't really even notice anything. I didn't notice my hunger being gone. I mean, now this week being the second week that I'm back on it, I've noticed that I'm not as hungry as I was. I mean, I just ate, I guess what would have been my breakfast just about lunchtime and that was what I've been eating for breakfast has been like some fruit or some berries and some fruit that are not like the higher in sugar content. Been eating
Mhm.
that with some cottage cheese, and then I got my greens drink that I take all kind of like, hey, I'm gonna get some greens in, get my fruits in, and get some protein in all for breakfast. And I just ate that, and I wasn't even hungry until afternoon my time. So I think it started to kick back in. So I told my wife, I said, I sure hope that now I can start to see some pounds drop off the scales. And I've been doing my exercise program, but we started walking. We've had some days that were like yesterday, I think it was 55 to 60 degrees. So we went out for a walk. Um, I don't know if it helps all the time or not, but makes me feel like it does.
What dose are you on?
I'm on a 5 milligram.
I've already graduated to the 15 milligram,
Have you?
which the highest you can get. And I was worried at first that I'd make a mistake because all for 2 weeks and I was actually losing a little bit. But one of the members of the Discord, Joe Crypto, I think is his handle. I think he's changed it
Uh-huh.
recently, but he said that just
Oh, did you
means there's
change it?
food staying in your system longer. So yes, he was right.
Yes, that's a good thing. I mean, I just recently shared for the first time on my not in any kind of group or anything, just shared my most recent video, not the shorts, but one of my most recent videos on Facebook. And I had one of my relatives, she commented, she goes, "Well, I'm on 3 diabetic medications. I've never heard of Mounjaro, but, um, I'd have to talk to my doctor about something like that." Well, I did reply back to her, like, she might wanna talk to her doctor because she might not need the 3 diabetic medications if she gets on Mounjaro. She might drop off some other medications and she might be able to lose some pounds in the same at the same time.
It's really truly a miracle medicine. You saw the live stream that I did with my sister where she had the fatty liver disease, and she was
Yeah.
borderline before it, but I mean, all that's behind her now, and it was because of Manjaro, taking the weight off. She was trying to do it herself, and it just wasn't working.
You know, I wish it still had the $25 coupon out there. I mean, of course, I was fortunate enough, and I ended up being fortunate enough that I had a one of those tier one coupons saved that I didn't use because when I went and got mine originally, I had pulled it down, but then the pharmacy just pulled it down. Here, we got the coupon for you. Don't worry about it. So I'd already had it saved in there when my wife went to get hers. Originally, it was going to be higher, and she ended up because she's in the medical field and she had worked with Walgreens for a while. She was doing um, some vaccinations for them for a while, and so what she did was she called that pharmacist and they said, "Well, here's the coupon. We'll get you taken care of. It's going to be $25," and that's how I got mine back for $25 too. Where all these other pharmacies were saying, "No, no, it's going to be $700 or higher." It was kind of interesting when you had a pharmacist that actually took invested interest in the person because they knew the people and looked into the process to make sure that they covered, checked every box. The next thing you know, we get it for $25. I wish other people could get it for that because it is such a game changer. And I hope at some point in the future that they do bring that back because I know some people that could really benefit from it. Now, some of those people couldn't afford to pay $1,000 a month, kind of like Ken, trying to spread it out like every 3 weeks, I believe is what he spreads it out. But it's working for him. I would assume you probably need a higher dose if you're going to do that. But you know, what was I listening? I was listening to something. It was a doctor talk about people that had COVID, and the percentage was like if you're 59 or under, the survival rate was like 99.97% or something like that. And then they talked about obesity and just thinking about some of the things that you've talked about. And his obesity conversation was the percentage of people that are at the ideal cardiovascular level and their weight and criteria is about 6% of males. I was surprised at what the number was. It's only a little bit over 6%. And yet you start thinking about that. Insurance companies fighting weight loss supplements, and if Mounjaro being as effective as it is, you would think that they would save so much in the long run by getting people to a healthy weight, by giving them something like Mounjaro so that they wouldn't have to have long-term health consequences, which I would think would only cost the insurance companies so much more money in the long run. If they look at it from a long-term gain, Mounjaro is a huge benefit.
I mentioned that on one of my earlier videos, and I'm sure these insurance companies have cost analysts. You would think they would realize that in the long run, if they can keep people that are overweight now but otherwise relatively healthy, and there are a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
out there, if they can get the weight off
Yeah.
them, that might avoid even more expense going forward. But they should put you and me in charge of it. We can fix that, I think.
We'll have it fixed in about 15 minutes. Just put us in charge. We'll have it squared away. We'll tell them how to direct it, and we'll just iron out the details later, right?
I really think if they would just look at it instead of just, oh, this is a fancy drug, you need to change your lifestyle, it would help a lot of people. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
The thing is, I think it could be a situation to where you need people in those medical companies making these decisions who have been heavy before and have lost the weight, knows what that journey is like. Because the reality of it is, there's so many factors that leads to a person gaining weight. I think you may have seen or I may have said before. Now, I was a person that started every time there was like a loss in the family or something tragic in the family. I've had a tendency to stress eat and put on weight. That's kind of just one step, one step. I'd pick up a bad habit with each process along the way. I have a friend, he was 550 pounds, is what he weighed. Now, he went and got the gastro surgery, to be able to lose weight, but that was before Mounjaro, right? I mean, he started this, but it took him about 3 to 4 years to finally get. He's down now, I think about 270, 280. He's about 6'3". So, I mean, you think about the difference. He went from 550 to 270 to 280. How much Well, one thing that made a change for him, he was able to go get a job. He was able to go work, where he was trying to do some lawn mowing service before. And the reality is, as long as he was doing the riding mower, he was okay. But if it came to doing the trimming and the weed eating, it would just wear him out too much and he couldn't do it. Right. So now he's able to go do a job. He works for a transit company. Just a big life changing impact. He's way healthier than he was. He goes and walks every day. It's just, I don't know why the companies don't look at it that way. But if you see some of the comments that some of the people make who could eat a table full of food and still stay skinny, it's because they're never going to understand, and they're going to think, well, that's just a choice to eat what you eat. But it's not always about that, because my mother-in-law has thyroid issues, and she used to be skinny, but in the last 15, 20 years, she's not been. She's been heavier, but a lot of it has to do with thyroid issues and other factors that comes into play. I mean, is that a medical reason? Or is that a choice that what she chooses to eat? I mean, maybe it's a combination of both, but they don't look
Yeah,
at that.
combination of both in that example, but there's so many cases where it's not, that
Yep.
scenario. I've got a brother-in-law who, you know, I mean, he would always eat at family gatherings 2, 3 times what I would eat. He always stayed thin. Now in later years, it's caught up with him just a bit, but by no means is he obese. And I just think some people, it's their metabolism, naturally handles food better.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's something different about that, right? Um, that's where now not everybody is this way, and I know some people where I do the exercise part of it. For me, I have found that if I'm going to lose weight, because this is based on past experiences where I've done it and stopped. Now I told my wife I have a different perspective this time, because now I've had the blood pressure spike at over 200, and I've had that negative consequence. Well, now it's a life changing healthy aspect. It's not just about how much do I weigh and how do my clothes fit. Um, Not that it ever really was that, if that makes any sense, but it's not about how I look as much as it is I got to get myself back into a fitness level that I can get my blood pressure medicine gone, so I can stop, having those. I mean, I was getting to the point it was high enough. I would feel like almost this swimmy feeling in my head, and it would just feel really weird. And I would just sit here like at a table and put my hands down for a moment and just kind of feel like I need to stabilize myself. That's how high the blood pressure was getting, and it felt weird. But when you got life changing or potentially life taking consequences going on, it really wakens you up a lot. And that's where I'm at. That's different. But the neat thing is everybody has a different journey to get to where they're going and why they got to where they are. Some of it is, medical reasons, whether it is metabolism is completely different. And that's why I wish that they would do more in depth looks into things like Mounjaro.
And it could be a variety of factors too. Like somebody might have a stressful job, and you mentioned early on that you stress eat. I did the same thing actually before Manjaro. If something went wrong at work or went wrong, in a family matter or something, I mean, food was my outlet. That was the way I'd get relief from it, and it would calm me down. And I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, you know,
I guess I was never fortunate to be one of those people that when they got stressed, they couldn't eat. I was always been the opposite. I get stressed, I started eating.
exactly. Right after I started taking Manjaro, in fact, I did a video about this, and I called the name of the video is "Are You a Stress Eater?" I had a particularly bad week where everything that could go wrong at the house did go wrong, Yeah. But I
Yeah.
felt sure I'd gain weight that next following week when I stepped on the scales, but I wind up losing weight. But, I mean,
Y-
a
you,
medical
Go ahead.
professional, hormones that come with Manjaro, they do something to your brain. They put you in the mindset where food is not what it meant, doesn't mean to you what it used to mean to you. Food is a way of staying alive now.
Oh, 100%. And if you saw, I did it and posted something in the forum the other day, and it was, I thought my family was trying to torture me, because in the past, if you would have turned back the clock and I was going to pick up some candy, I would assure you that I was buying something for myself too, right? But when I picked that up, it was honestly, there was no desire for me to even take the first bite of any of that candy. And that's something that Mounjaro really flipped that switch, and I think that trigger had a short circuit going on for me for a while, because it was like I was craving that sweet stuff.
You know, used to when I was on the way home from work, and I'd call my. She said, "Just pick us up fast food, bring it home." You know, I'd always order fries, and you know, it'd be I'd be lucky if those fries made it home before me just sitting reaching over into the bag and eating them all the way back to the house.
Guilty.
You've done the
Yeah.
same.
I've done the same thing, and it's like, have you ever gone? So I'm like, okay, I live in southern part of Illinois, so basically think about St. Louis, but to the east, and I got to go to Dubuque, Iowa, which is about a 5.5 hour drive. I got to drive there tomorrow. In the past, I could have bought like a bag of chips or bought something. I think I'm only going to eat a handful of those, and I'm good. I get down the road to the next gas station. The next time I have to fill up, where did the chips go? Somebody here, without even, I don't want to say it's almost unconsciously because you're just reaching over and just out of habit, just reaching over and biting into a chip and eating it. I'm not hungry. I'm not anything else, but I was doing that. I got with the stress hit. That's what I started doing. I just started eating extras. One of the things I have learned to make sure that I do to control that is if I'm going to go there and I'm going to buy a bag of nuts, I'm not buying the big bag. I'm going to buy the bags that I'm going to buy multiples of small bags that I know what the controlled calorie content is, so that if I eat the whole bag, okay, there was 240 calories. That fits in my schedule, and I don't even open it unless I know that I can eat it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so do you count calories on your journey?
I have been. I use the Lose It app. It's because I wanted to kind of find out what I was eating, and I also measure my food. Like when I'm at home, I measure my food. And the reason I've been measuring the food is like, for example, one thing I snack on a lot is macadamia nuts, and they're like
Mhm.
28 grams. Now, I'll tell you something interesting about that in a second. But like 28 grams, I can take like my hand and about a handful like this, and I can drop it in a little cup and put it on the measuring scale, and that's about 28 grams. Actually, it's about 24. So I know that a serving size is 28. Now, there's something that my mindset has changed too, because it used to be I look at food and say, well, hey, well, the serving size is X. Macadamia nuts, 200 calories for a serving of 28 grams. I now realize I don't have to eat a serving, if that makes any sense. I used to be like, well, I'm going to get a serving because that's what it is and it's easy. Now I may get 14 grams and add 100 calories, but I don't have to eat what they put on their package as a serving size. And I was just doing it just out of habit because that's what it said the serving size was.
I think in the past, my downfall, I would hate portion control, counting calories, and getting one of those plates where it's got the different color triangles on it, where you would measure how much food you put in your plate. I don't know, just for some reason that discouraged me. It was like, I'm being deprived, or I'm depriving myself of food that I really want. But I haven't counted calories since I started taking
Oh,
Mounjaro. If I get hungry, I would eat, but a few bites of something, I would be full. I mean, it was something that this medication allowed me not to have to do. And
exactly.
I might get 12 or 1,300 calories a day. Some days less, some days a little bit more, but you know, I'm not complaining. Whatever Manjaro is doing, it's working. So,
Well, exactly. Well, the only reason I did it was initially as a means to tell my brain that I don't need to be eating those sweet foods. And whenever I'd go eat the candy, my wife would tell you that I would go get the kid candy because, of course, I don't know, the nastiest, sweetest stuff that you could get. That's what I was eating, right? And I don't know why I was eating that, but it just once you ate it once, it's like the kids would have it, then they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna go get me some of that too. And I know I was basically eating pure sugar, and I know how bad that was for me. I know how unhealthy that was. The things I didn't realize at the time is when I told them my blood pressure was high, I didn't realize how much sugar impacted blood pressure.
mhm.
It's not just, everybody talks about fats and things like that. Well, since I've gone on this diet, I actually eat a lot more fats, so to speak, as in good fats. Like I mentioned the nuts and things like that. My fat percentage is actually higher than what it was previously. But that also helps me to stay full longer. But it's healthy fats.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
It does. You mentioned nuts. I used to love pistachio nut.
Oh, I got
That
those
was
too. Those, yep.
that and cashews. Were my two favorites. Those are my go-to nuts, but they have no appeal now. I mean,
They don't have any
there's
appeal.
no appeal whatsoever. There's just very few foods or anything that I crave. My
Yeah,
wife
there's not much. Your wife, what?
my wife is an excellent cook, and one of the things that she does quite well is bake. Chocolate cakes. one of her favorites is, like the carrot cakes, and everybody loves that. But over the holidays when she was doing the cooking, normally I was in there sampling everything to make sure it was fit to eat. That's my joke that I had. But
You have to, right? Yeah.
this year is different.
Yeah. So, I had started taking Mounjaro before Thanksgiving. My wife didn't start until right after Thanksgiving. So she had made some desserts and stuff for Thanksgiving, and I'd already been on it for basically a month. And she's like, "Here, do you want to taste this? You want to try?" You know what? No, I'm not really interested in that. She didn't. I don't know if she fully realized what the impact of that was until after she started taking it. It wasn't the fact that I just really had no desire to taste that at all. I mean, and my daughter's been making some cake pops and selling them. Now she's at school 5 hours away, so she comes home and makes them here like a couple weekends. Then she takes them to a coffee shop, sells them to the coffee shop. Then they sell her cake pops. Now, the other day she did come to me with the cake pops. Said, "Here, Dad, I want you to taste this." Well, I'm going to taste that whether I wanted to or not because it's my daughter, and I want to make sure that I want her to feel good about what she's doing. And they do taste good, but even after I take that bite, I don't have any desire to go take the next bite.
Mhm.
That's been the cool thing about Mounjaro and how it's taken that away. And I think some people must naturally have that. And I don't know if it's been stress reasons or whatever's happened throughout the years where that's kind of died down for me. And it kind of makes me think of something back when I was in college. Now it was an ethics teacher and he's talking about a conscience, but I don't have anything now, but he's talking about like conscious decisions. He said, okay, if you take a box with sharp edges and consider that's your conscience, and you put it inside a round ball, and that round ball is every time that box, the corner of it hits it, you feel the pain from it. He said, now what happens is over a period of time, each time it hits it, it wears a little bit off and it gets to where it doesn't hurt. I kind of wonder if that kind of philosophy that he used, that illustration he used, is something that kind of works with the food.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah, I always thought it was a good one. It always kind of because I could picture that, if that makes sense.
That'd be a good logo for their new medication they're coming out with that's supposed to be 3 times more powerful than Mounjaro.
Yeah,
But I'm sure
that's gonna be a what's that?
board. I'm sure there's a lot of scientists at Eli Lilly that make tons of money that are coming up with these ideas. And I'm just thinking of Mounjaro is out there right now, and we know
Yeah.
what they're working for next year. Just what do they have on their drawing board? What's in their pipeline? The only thing that I
Oh,
can hold things back is government regulation and getting these things approved by the FDA. I mean, I think there's so much that's could help the American help world people become healthier.
well, exactly. And the thing about Mounjaro, if it ever became approved for weight loss, right? Approved for weight loss, and then the price was effective for most people. I know that the supplement business is a huge business, but the weight loss supplements that you see on the shelves, those businesses would be in a world of hurt because there is no comparison to any supplement I've ever taken over the counter to what Mounjaro can do. Now, I say that with a caveat. I do take a supplement now that is a weight loss, technically a weight loss supplement, if you want to put that in quotes. But the reason I take it is because you know how Mounjaro, you can get that fatigue feeling.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever dealt with that or not. I take a supplement, it's called Clean Burn, but it's got like, they use like a coffee bean extract and it's got like 250 milligrams of caffeine in it. I take that of a morning to help offset so I don't get that really fatigue feeling that some people get. And whenever I was having it, I started taking it. I don't think it really does much for my weight loss, but it does help me to stay a little more, I guess, alert and perky throughout the day, I guess, because when you're doing like I do and you work in the field with different sales reps and you're going to see customers, you've got to kind of stay on the top of your game a little bit. Now, when my wife started Mounjaro, they went full steam ahead with her. They gave her Mounjaro and phentermine,
Hmm.
and that she ended up stopping the phentermine because I mean she literally could not eat anything, and it was almost getting to the point that, to be honest, I mean, I'm thinking you're going to have to eat something at some point because you're eating like 300 calories in a day. That's not enough nutrition to keep you going. And then she started talking about getting tired and we'd start working out. And she's like, man, I feel weak. She was just not getting the food. So she stopped the phentermine. But um, for some people, I know they take that, but I don't think my wife needed both.
I've heard that sometimes when you don't get enough calories, your body goes into conserve mode and something prevents you from losing the weight because the body knows it's not going to be getting the calorie intake that it previously was. But intermittent, I was on that twice, and it works. I mean,
Yeah.
but as soon as I come off of it, the weight comes right back up. And it's not sustainable.
Yeah. So see, I took Phentermine whenever, see, whenever that was. Whenever I gained my like 30 pounds or 40 pounds after I lost one of my relatives, because I had a brother who passed away in his sleep one time at one point, and it was very unexpected. And I just the stress of it, I put on some weight. I'd been working out and stuff before that, and then I just put on weight. I took Phentermine and I lost the weight. I lost 30 so pounds pretty quickly, like in 2 months. But as soon as I quit taking the Phentermine, my hunger cravings were
Hmm.
back off the charts, and I put that weight right back on. That's where no matter where I was at on the scale with Mounjaro, I wanted to do a taper off effect, right? I like you mentioned on 15, I'm kind of thinking that if I work my way up, and we tried to get a higher dose, but the higher dose wasn't available. So we just end up staying with the 5 because I mean, I have continued to drop. I mean, January, I thought that I was really slow, but if I looked at it, and I was, but if I looked at it from the full 30-day perspective and using my Lose It app to track that, I lost I just looked the other day and my phone, I'm using it so I can't really look right now, but I lost like 10.3 pounds from yesterday until 30 days prior. And that's going like that 2+ week stretch with only losing like a half a pound. I wasn't really losing anything. So prior to, and then I guess I'd done okay, right? I had to look at it from the whole instead of the short snapshot.
But look at the percentage body weight that you've lost. You started at 290 and you're down to, you say 253 now?
243.
243? What's the percentage of that? Do the math real quick. That is amazing.
I have to do it on the computer because my calculator's on my phone. So, and I'd
That's
like to
why
say that, what's that?
that's why I asked you to do it real quick.
Yep. No, it's all good. I got 2 computers set in front of me. I got my work computer. All right. So let's see. So that means I've lost like 16.2% of my body weight.
And that's amazing. I mean, previously you only could do that through bariatric surgery.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it? It's amazing. It's definitely amazing.
And it speaks for itself.
It does. And what I've noticed is, I don't know if you notice this or not, but whenever I talk about some of that stuff, like I post a video and I'll post like a positive message. Hey, if you're not losing weight, I would suggest doing some measurements. I mean, the reality is I didn't do the measurements in the beginning because I was always going to measure. But when I was dropping a half a pound a day consistently, it was easy not to measure because I just saw the scale moving all the time. Does that make sense? And then I'll go and I'll make a comment. Then when it holds to a standstill, it's like, hey, if your scale's not moving, well, it's the one I did. Just only reason I did that video the other day was just to test the microphone and to test out the stand, see how it all worked. But you know what I find interesting is I start doing that and I make a comment like, hey, take some measurements, do that. I've lost an inch in like 7 to 10 days. I don't know. I mean, maybe part of that's fluid, maybe part of that's, fat loss. I'm not really sure what all encompasses in that, but I went from 46.5 to 45.5 waist in a matter of that time frame. But I get more dislikes on videos like that than I do some other videos. And I just find sometimes anymore that, I don't know if you ever see this, but if you talk about something that's positive and encouraging, you would think that there wouldn't be a lot of dislikes on that, right? But that's where I get more dislikes sometimes than I do the other stuff.
I used
Have
to
you ever
get
noticed
real
that?
when I had dislikes out there, but
Oh,
I got past that. I really did.
same.
You know,
Yeah. Well,
you know,
I told my wife, I look at, okay, sorry.
positive messages to
Oh,
help. If somebody's not receiving it that way, maybe they don't need the help to begin with. But why would you want to go in and give a thumbs down for something like that? Now, if you were spreading misinformation, yes, I could understand that. But I've seen all your videos. Everything you've posted has been positive in nature, and if people would take time to watch it, it would help them in the long run.
that is what I try to do with everything that I do and everything that I post, because I try to encourage people to think, hey, this has worked for me. And here's what, talk to your doctor. I try to be cautious to not say, do this, right? Because I mean, that's kind of against YouTube. But secondly, I don't know what each person's health situation is like. I know when I started Mounjaro, my doctor did blood work first just to make sure on everything. They checked all the metrics for me and made sure where everything was at. And then I started Mounjaro. And that may be a good idea for other people. Did you have to do blood work before you started?
I'm doing blood work every 6 months, but yes, the doctor had me do blood work first. And
Yeah.
I've got later on this month, so I'm almost due my 6 month again on it. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my blood work still comes back good. But yeah, he's closely monitoring it, and we communicate via one of those message boards. He, thinks it's time for me to up my dose. I stayed on the 12 and a half for 3 months before I went to the 15. So if he
Yes.
felt me to 15, I think he would have put me to the 15. But I guess when the weight slows is when it might be time to go to the next higher dose.
Yeah. And so, like, I kind of think that I kind of hit with the 5 milligrams, but then again, what do they say with the 5 milligrams? You can lose 15% of your body weight, typically, is what I've seen. That's where but I'm at, like I said, 16.3, 16.2. That's where I've increased my activity level because, here's the thing though. Now that I've lost the 47 pounds, it's easier for me to increase my activity level. When I
Yeah,
started off, that's the
exactly.
difference, right? Yeah. So now I can do it and it's not as big a problem for me as it was before. I mean, in one of my videos, I mentioned about it's when I was talking, but this thing called the burpee. Me and a burpee was a challenge. And I think I almost broke my middle finger trying to do it in the beginning and it's still sore. But um, the first time, I'm not saying that I'm busting out a burpee like The Rock's going to do a burpee, okay? But just the fact that I was able to put my hands down, kick my feet back, hop back up, I'm like, wow, that's crazy thing. I haven't been able to do that in a long, long, long time, right?
Do that now.
And what's that?
I couldn't do that
What'd
now.
you say?
I can't do that.
I'm
I'm
not sure.
afraid to try.
No.
I,
Well, I was afraid to try for the longest time. I'll be completely honest because now I look at my picture and I can see why because my balance and my weight ratio was way off and I was way heavier and I go to do it and there was no chance that I was going to do it. And I wouldn't dare try to do it right now without stretching out first because I'm realizing the older that I get, the more likely I am to hurt something. And my wife, the last couple of weeks, she's kind of slacked off a little bit on exercise because she's like, oh, I hurt my back and doing this and that. So she talked to the physical therapist at work at the hospital. They said, hey, take the week off. When you come back, if you use some weights, if you're using 10 pounds before, do a 2 or 3 pound just to have something to have a little resistance, but don't go back into it, because turned 50 here in a couple months. So the reality is things are not like it was when I was 20 years old. Things hurt, things take longer to recover. And I'm trying to ease my way into a lot of things, right? And I think you mentioned you had a hip that was like bone on bone, and I got a hip that bothers me sometimes, and it may be something at some point in my future that I have to take a look at. And that's another reason it can be a benefit of getting my weight down because my dad had a hip replacement, my grandpa had a hip replacement, and my right hip bothers me. So it could be a genetic, thing that gets passed down to the family. I don't know. But if I drop, 80, 90, 100 pounds, that's going to be a big change on that weight that I'm carrying and the impact on my hips and my knees and all my joints.
What is your goal weight, Robert?
I started out with a goal weight of 205 pounds.
Mhm.
I was just talking to my wife because we went to a local town. She liked to go get her coffee, her Starbucks. And I said, I had a goal weight of 205 pounds. I said, today I have eliminated my goal weight because I still have that 205 like there is an area that I want to be. But because I've changed my routine and I'm focused so much more on it's a weight loss and then adding a fitness criteria to it and working out and lifting some weights with it. I'm not lifting those big 50, 60, 100 pounds bench pressing a lot of weight like some of these people are. That's not what my goal is, right? My goal is just to become a little stronger, to make myself more stable, more solid core, that kind of thing, right? But I said, I don't know with all that where my weight's going to be. Does that mean I need to be 210? Do I need to be 200? Do I need to be 195? Do I need to be 215? I don't know where it's at. Um, I almost feel better about that now than I did just trying to establish a criteria and say, here's my goal weight, right? Because I know what 205 pounds looked like on me, 15 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever that was. But I kind of almost feel like the physique changes a little bit the older that I get. So what does 205 like on me today? Does that make sense?
205, I think you would probably be real thin just based on the image you're doing these videos, not possibly even too thin. You said,
I've wondered that. Yeah.
I would guess probably anywhere from 225 to 235 would be an,
And
my main goal was to get below 300, but if I could get to 265, I'd be very pleased.
yeah.
So
And you know what? That's a good weight. Yeah. I mean, you're 6'2", you said, right? So 265. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad weight at all. And like I said, if I end up at 225, 230, I'm almost feeling like I can get too thin, and I don't want to get too thin. So we'll see where that number ends up at. But
you're
it's
very, you work out
the
muscle fat, but that needs to come into consideration when you're setting your goal weight.
Yeah, no, you're correct, and that's one of the reasons why I basically eliminated my goal weight as much as I am now, and started focusing more on the measurements and looking at like, okay, well, I got the fat change in here, here, and here. I got this little midsection that I really got to clean up. But then again, what I'm noticing now is, okay, in the beginning, 10 pounds when I weighed 290 looked like one thing, but now when I went from 260 to 250, that 10 pounds looked completely different than the first 10 pounds I lost because the percentage wise, it's a higher percentage, and I can see it more than I could have seen 10 pounds before.
Let me ask you a question. How's it working out with you and your wife both taking Mounjaro? That's got to be real convenient because one of my challenges is, I eat differently than my wife eats now. And it's almost like sometimes she'll prepare a meal just for herself, or we'll go out somewhere and I'll just order something small off the menu, because, my food consumption has changed, my taste has changed. And now she's on Ozempic, but she's been on Ozempic for several years now. And it's not
Yeah,
doing what I think. I wish she could go on Mounjaro, but unfortunately, Medicare won't cover Mounjaro.
yeah,
But how
yeah.
can your wife both being on Mounjaro at the same time?
So it's worked out really well. And I mentioned that Saturday we went down and we got some coffee. You know, she wanted to get her Starbucks, but we also went over to McAllister's. Now, what we did do was we sometimes we'll split a sandwich. This time we didn't. We got two different sandwiches. We brought the other half to the kids and they ate the other half. But like a lot of times, we'll just pick out a sandwich. We'll compromise on. More likely, I compromise on the sandwich that she wants because I'm not going to sway her side of it. We'll just split a sandwich that's from there, and we'll do something like that because then we're eating like what 350, 360 calories on each half, and we've got something decent. But at home, we had a local farmer sell us a half. Send a half a beef over for processing. My in-laws bought the other half, so we've got a lot of beef refrigerator in the freezer. We cook that, the roast or whatever it could be. She'll put that in the crock pot, but we'll prepare a lot of that. And we just kind of talk about sometimes the meals. Now, like last night, we all ate something a little bit different. We actually grabbed fast food of all things, but she grabbed a Mexican pizza from Taco Bell and ate about two-thirds of it. You know, I think they're 530 calories, but she ate about two-thirds of it. Is it ideal? Is it the healthiest thing? No, but then at the same time, if you take every bit of that away from you all the time, then it makes you more likely to splurge, right? Now, one thing that I did, I went to Subway and I got me a salad from their rotisserie chicken, but I grabbed me a bag of chips at Walmart that were the Quest chips, the protein chips, and
Mhm.
I took those and I took the salad from there, and I got the rotisserie chicken. I put their Baja seasoning in it, and then I got these nacho chips that were like 18 grams of protein. I crunched them up, put them in there, kind of made me a taco salad effect, and I made that. I think it was 420 calories total, and it was. I think it was like 30 some grams of protein. So I mean, I made a nice meal out of it, and that's kind of how we do it on those days. We may go and get something occasionally out like that, or we'll fix something at home. But yeah, we balance. It's actually work. It's ideal and works out perfectly that we're both on at the same time.
I can imagine. You speaking going out, it's probably almost cheaper to eat out than cook at home these days with the way prices are for purchasing food in the grocery store. You
Oh, it's
mentioned
crazy.
you and your brother split a beef. Is that what you said?
Oh, so me and my in-laws. So yeah, we got half a beef, and then I wanted the other half. So we split a beef.
Let me ask you a question. Does it taste different than what you buy in the store?
Oh man, this stuff tastes really good and it's extremely tender. It's really good beef. Comes from a local farmer that we know, and I'm
Uh,
telling you what, there's a difference.
the lady that I interviewed the other night, Pam, she's my sister. Her and her husband own a small farm down in North Georgia, and they raise that beefs, and that's what we have in our refrigerator now. We bought half a beef from them, and we've done that several times, and it is definitely better than anything you can purchase at the store or restaurant for that matter. I think it's probably healthier too.
Oh, I think so. It's absolutely, and this stuff that we get, the farmer, it's good. I mean, I had a half a beef one time before from another source, and it wasn't quite the same. But I also think I leaned that back on the processor because I think they when it especially on the hamburger, they threw some stuff into it that they left the gristly stuff in it, and I would have that cleaned up more than what they did. And it's like we ended up giving all the hamburger to my in-laws because we didn't even eat it because it was just I was like, no, can't eat that. Yeah,
Well, we have had a good test here, Robert.
I think so.